Good morning, and welcome to Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church, in-person and online worship. I'm Anna Noyes-Benoit, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am a member of the worship committee. Our mission calls us to celebrate diversity, encourage spiritual growth, and promote social responsibility while we travel on and care for the earth. For those of you at home, if you're attending for the first time, please go to the website and fill out the welcome card so we can get to know more about you. Each month, Allen Avenue supports a nonprofit organization whose mission aligns with the Unitarian Universalist principles. The Share the Plate recipient for May is the Bombazine Land Trust. Bombazine Land Trust is an intertribal Wabanaki initiative to heal our lands and people. The project was organized by the Wabanaki people. They are dedicated to social and environmental justice, to promote and honor culturally significant spaces through the rematriation of ancestral lands and the continuance of cultural practice and presence. To learn more about this organization, please go to the website link on today's order of service. I would also like to welcome our guest, Reverend Sarah Gillespie. Reverend Gillespie is an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister and a board-certified healthcare chaplain. She works at Androscoggin Home Care and Hospice and tends to the emotional, spiritual needs of hospice patients and their families from a wide spectrum of faiths, including the non-religious. Sarah resides in Lewiston with her spouse Adam and their preschooler Luke. In her spare time, she enjoys baking, singing, and watching baseball. Thank you for being with us today, Reverend Gillespie. And to everyone here, we are so glad you've joined us. We will now center our hearts and minds with the ringing of the bell.
As we begin this sacred hour, let us reflect on what it means to create a holy place in this ordinary time and space. Hear these words from UU minister and poet Max Coots. When love is felt or fear is known, when seasons come as seasons do, old and known, but somehow new, when lives are born or people die, when something sacred is sensed in soil or sky, mark the time. Respond with thought or smile or grief. Let nothing living slip between the fingers of your mind. For all of these are holy things we will not, cannot find again. Come and let us mark this time as sacred as we worship together. Our first hymn this morning is in the gray hymnal, For All That Is Our Life, number 128. We will light our chalice this morning with these words from Marjorie Montgomery. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift.
Each week, our staff and volunteers create meaningful spiritual experiences. We have religious education programming, spiritual enrichment groups, and a variety of opportunities to create community. The funds we receive support all that we do, and 1/3 will be shared with the Bomazene Land Trust. There's a QR code on the back of your program if you'd like to donate electronically. Or if you wait, the place will go around. If you're online, you can go to our website and use the donate button and indicate it is for to share the plate. This morning's offering is gratefully received.
Our reading this morning comes from the book of Genesis, chapter 28. Jacob left Beersheba and went toward Haran. He came to a certain place and stayed there for the night, because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. And he dreamed that there was a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And the Lord stood beside him and said, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give to you and your offspring, and your offspring shall be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. And all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your offspring. Know that I am with you and will keep you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Then Jacob woke up from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven. So Jacob rose early in the morning, and he took the stone that he had put under his head and set it up for a pillar and poured oil on top of it. And he called that place Bethel. It's wonderful to be in a place where you can celebrate May Day outside and then read a children's story and then read about Jacob in the book of Genesis, all in the same place. The book of Genesis is a reality TV show, basically. And before we get to this episode of Jacob's story, there are a few important things to know about this character and how he got to this point in the story. Jacob didn't just leave Beersheba. He ran away because he was in fear for his life. Barbara Brown Taylor, an author and Episcopal priest, reasons that this might be the case because he is, quote, a two-time double-crosser, an accomplished deceiver, and a con man on the run. So here's what we know about this guy called Jacob, who has a role in the Hebrew Bible, the New Testament, the Quran, and Baha'i scriptures. He tricked his dying father Isaac into blessing him over his brother Esau. A typical youngest child, guilty. He craved the attention and approval given to his older brother, the firstborn son. His sympathetic, conflicted mother aids in the deception and then feels bad that her older son might now get hunted down by her, or her younger son might get hunted down by her older son. And so she lies again to her dying husband to send Jacob away to her brother in Haran. This makes my family seem normal. So our story picks up here, and Jacob is running away from the only home he has ever known into the desert. And now it starts to get dark out. Luckily, this is not a horror movie, and so something terrible is not going to jump out and scare us. But he realizes there's no better place than this random spot of sand, so Jacob finds a rock for a pillow, a real sign of desperation in my book, and he snuggles up for the night, just under this simple landscape of sand and sky and stone. Yet what it inspires is more than simple, because it's in this place that Jacob has a very powerful dream that many of us have heard of, Jacob's ladder, which stretched from earth up to heaven with angels coming and going between here and there. In the dream, Jacob hears the voice of God saying, "Know that I am with you, and I will keep you wherever you go." Then he wakes up. And for me, this is the really interesting part. I like dreams and all, but it's the actions that we take after the dream that really create the meaning in our lives. So I imagine Jacob kind of yawns, rolls over, stretches with his nice stone pillow before having his epiphany and saying, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." And he was afraid, and he said, "How awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven." To translate into today's language in our UU faith, heaven is here in this place. And this barren, rocky wilderness is a holy place. With gratitude, Jacob takes his new beloved stone pillow and places it upright in the sand, anoints it with oil, which I guess was in his pocket while he was running away. And he marks the ground. He marks the place where this holy turning point happens for him. He's marking the spot where change happens, however unpleasant it may have been to get there. This is a rite of passage for him, a huge transition, and he is imbuing sacred meaning to this simple and ordinary spot. He's creating something out of nothing. And even more, he finds hope and awe in what was a very difficult and uncertain chapter in his life. And he just takes the only thing he has and makes an altar right in the middle of the desert, calls it Bethel, which in Hebrew means house of God. Barbara Brown Taylor writes about this in her book, An Altar in the World, and she said she knew reading this story for the first time that it was true whether it happened or not. And this story rings true in that way because Jacob is not the only one who's been through a lot lately. Most of us are living through, or on the tail end of having lived through, one of the most uncertain periods of our lives, when little has made sense and when hope can be hard to find. We've experienced change in our lives individually, as a community, as a nation, as a world. I'll start with me, though. As a hospice chaplain, I've witnessed deep loneliness, despair, grief, and the hardship of others for the last 2+ years in my work. Spending most of my COVID days in nursing homes, masked and distant, I've sometimes been the only visitor that other people have had. And I've watched people say goodbye to this life, sometimes without anyone they love beside them. And I've seen families struggle with how to bring closure to the end of such a chapter without being physically able to be there with the one that they loved. Thankfully, I've also seen some of the greatest love, resilience, and joy that humans have to offer each other. Yes, it's been nothing but change and chaos, but now as the pandemic transforms, I have to learn to let go of old habits and welcome new ones in, even when it's frightening. Like going to the grocery store without a mask for the first time, or having friends over for dinner, or whatever that looks like for us. And I know there's a mix of personal, professional, and communal grief and change here, loss and joy amidst all of you. You might be in the midst of your own personal transition. You may have lost someone or something you love so dearly recently. A relationship has ended, a role has changed, your job changed if you're lucky to have one, you've been isolated. Maybe you've said goodbye to a pet or hello to an illness. The list of personal changes we can go through can't be captured in a sermon or even by words. And as a congregation, as a community, I've learned you're going through a tremendous change, a transition in your ministerial leadership and what might feel like your identity as a congregation. A time of letting go, of feeling sorrow, relief, regret, anger, worry, confusion. And at the same time as that ending, you're now contemplating a new beginning, new faces, voices, a time of excitement, of possible joy, of opportunity, and just complete uncertainty. This can be an extremely uncomfortable place, no matter what the change. And we are all in between a rock and a holy place. We're in the middle of the desert and the sun is going down. Jacob's story is our story too. And it illustrates how change occurs and how we respond to it in 3 stages, the stages of any rite of passage: separation, liminality, and return. First, the separation, the ending, that feeling of crisis, known and unknown, the conflict, the aggravation, the stress that drove that ending. This is where change begins. Jacob runs away. This is sometimes the desire in each of us in that part of the transition process to retreat, to hide, to hold our breath till a better morning comes. For Bella to run out of the house with the jacket that doesn't fit, that she cannot take off. This is the part that most of us would like to fast forward through. But instead of running out in the desert, because we don't have deserts in Maine, we go online, we binge Netflix, eat, drink, shop, exercise, stay busy, anything to keep our minds and our bodies from actually dealing with the crisis or from feeling deeply our own emotions related to this ending. Next, we enter that liminal space, the threshold, the waiting place, as Dr. Seuss, one of my favorite theologians, calls it. For Jacob, it is actually when he stops running. In grabbing that stone for a pillow, he shows us how to cope with the crisis and stress part of transition and how to start moving from ending to beginning. He accepts that mix of comfort and discomfort by snuggling up with that simple rock. He just stops and rests. And right now, maybe we are being called to do the same. This is a hard lesson for us. It doesn't matter if we've gotten to the place we're going. It doesn't matter that this isn't our preferred resting place. There is nothing more to do, achieve, get. There just comes a point where we all need to stop and rest. Rest is essential to change. It's one of the few parts of the process we can have actually a tiny bit of control in. In music, the rest is just as important as the note that follows. So this is the moment for us to take a beat communally and individually. And resting is not just a benefit in and of itself. It has the added perk of dream time. And it's very hard to have a decent dream with no rest. And dreams are very worthy of our time, even if they're not deemed kind of productive by society. Dreams help us think of things we could not imagine during our regular working hours, waking hours. A dream is exactly what inspires Jacob to make a holy place out of an ordinary place. It becomes the place in the turmoil of life where we're quiet enough to hear that still small voice, that spirit of life, that voice of God, however you name it, that consoles us and tells us, you are not alone in this. Finally, the last part of transition, the return, the wake-up call. We enter that new beginning. The ebb and flow of crisis are met by acknowledging our dreams and our reality together. We're awake and aware of where we are and yet also what might be possible with our next steps. It's what our third principle reminds us, that we accept one another, but also encourage ourselves to spiritual growth. I was reading that it's on your wall, so you have that reminder all the time. We begin to reconcile what we know with what we feel, for both are valuable. And in order to cross the threshold, both have to be present. By waking up, we're actually opening ourselves to life's gifts, those glories and the mysteries we heard in our chalice lighting. It's important for me to remember that Jacob is almost afraid when he says, "How awesome is this place?" And awesome then wasn't just like cool, but a place that truly left you in awe, speechless, just at the precipice. How awesome is this place, I ask myself. How awe-inspiring and terrifying is the spot where change occurs for us. The good news for Jacob and for us is that the story doesn't end in the desert, in the darkness. After Jacob's dream, he does wake up. He marks that holy spot in the ground, and then he leaves. He doesn't stay there and build a temple and worship that one spot. He goes on. He goes away from that place. He goes to Haran, the land of his uncle. He meets new people. He finds new community. The soap opera of Genesis continues. The pastures are not always greener away from home for him, but he does begin again. And we begin again too. We eventually go forward from the place of change. We welcome new people into our lives, into our community. We begin again knowing all that we know, fully expecting more peaks and valleys, more houses of God, more deserts, more holy moments, more stories like Jacob's. That's part of who we are as a people of faith, as religious liberals. We are not people who shy away from change. We invite it to be our teacher, and we invite ourselves to grow from it. In closing, perhaps the only thing we have to remember about change is that it is a holy yet unavoidable place. A place where we're not alone. A place where we feel the spirit of life move within us and between us. A place where dreams are possible. A place where we simply begin again and again and again. So may we all take the time to explore that place in our lives and in the life of this church. May you mark this holy ground together, and may this place continue to be an awesome place for all who find rest here and are stirred to change and grow. May it be so. Amen. Please join me in singing our final hymn this morning in the Teal Hymnal, number 1008, When Your Heart is in a Holy Place. May we remember to mark this sacred place and time. May we let nothing slip between the fingers of our minds, for all of these things are holy things that will not, cannot be found again. And as we extinguish our chalice, may we mark the end of one sacred time and begin our real sacred work out in the world, in this place, with abundant love and grace. May it be so. Amen.